"Who is Unget?" asked the king. "I am Unget." Without question, it was true. It was I who was Unget. That ruinous face was mine. I was the bata thing, that all-devouring, womb-like yet barren thing. Gloam was a web, I the swollen spider squat at its center, gorged with men's stolen lives. C.S. Lewis, Till We Have Faces. Consumption is a funny thing. You enter into the world with the need to consume. You must drink. You must eat. It is necessary for life. As you grow, this doesn't change. You still must eat and drink, or you die. As time goes on, your needs increase. Your longing and desiring continues to grow without stopping. I'm not speaking here of your physical desires only. Your physical appetites grow, but so do your appetites for personal connection. You want to be known by someone and to know others. Your appetite for knowledge increases. You want to learn about, to learn how. Your appetite for new experience grows. You have a wanderlust and must see more lest you miss out. You see others on Instagram getting to travel the world, and you can't stand that you aren't the one doing that instead. And so you envy them. Your appetite for success increases. You sacrifice sleep to train harder. You work longer hours to get the one up and be promoted. You give up time with your family so that you can finally accomplish your dream. Your appetite for entertainment grows. Binging Netflix becomes normal. Entering into the surrogate lives of others becomes what you look forward to most. Just one more episode. Just one more game. Refresh one more time. You keep scrolling. Your desire for sexual pleasure grows. You want intimacy, passion, that shot of endorphins. Your husband doesn't give you what you deserve, so you find someone that will. Always looking for someone else, something else. Flesh and blood women don't care much for you, but that doesn't stop your desire. You need the next orgasm. It starts to drive you. You can't stop looking, can't stop touching, can't stop using. Your appetite for the next high grows. What you've had isn't enough. You become riskier and riskier, but the illicit nature of what you're doing adds to the adrenaline rush. It also adds to the shame. Your longing for acceptance and approval from others grows almost overpowering. You have to do whatever it takes to hear their applause, to get more likes. Your appetites grow, but they don't seem to stop. You consume and consume, but are never actually filled. Like an infant child who can't get enough milk. It screams and screams, it cries. It won't stop. 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 The sound cannot be drowned out. It rings forever in your head. Your appetites become like a cancer. They might seem innocuous at first, but then they start to grow beyond their natural bounds. They start to crowd out everything else, a finite thing trying to grow without end. It has now become the goal of major marketing firms and multinational corporations to use the desire to consume that sits inside of you. Welcome to the modern world where you are now a consumer. You want, well, they provide. You desire, they can fulfill. That existential emptiness that you feel, it's because you don't have the new Lexus. You haven't tried the new Mountain Dew. People once followed a calendar that marked special religious seasons or times of agricultural significance, but now we have a liturgical calendar of consumption. You are what Wendell once called an industrial conquistador. The filling of your desires is all that matters. You sit in comfort, and that comfort is a sign that everything is as it should be, or at least you try to convince yourself that it is. Disconnected from the work of your hands, from the consequences of your actions, and from the actual land, you are nothing but a hole to be filled. You transport your psyche through a screen to where you want to be, who you want to be. There is nothing concrete to your life except those things that you buy and consume. You are, to borrow another phrase from Barry, an overweight apparition. You have access to more than almost anyone in history. All it takes is the push of a button, and almost anything you desire can be delivered to you. But as you feed your appetites, as you consume more and more, nothing changes. You are never full, at least not for long. You're never complete. Let me ask you, do you feel less empty in your consumption? You would think that in a day with so many choices, we would finally all be happy. But this is the furthest from the truth. The more choices we have in front of us, the more likely we are to be discontent. We are constantly wondering if we missed out on something better. A better partner, a better job, a better burger. You seek for true, lasting happiness, but it seems to be the only thing you can't find. The fact that advertisers are using your own appetites against you should be a wake-up call. If you buy the new car, the new TV, the new house, the new specialty food item, and yet continue to want more, then you haven't actually been fulfilled. The promise implicit in these advertisements is a lie. These things will not change your life. They will only exacerbate your desires. Never fill them. You consume and are never filled because what you are consuming is a virtual reality. You are not eating and drinking food and beverage as much as you're trying to consume a promise that you will finally achieve happiness, that you will finally be content. You will be a better person. You will be righteous. You will be complete. But these things cannot complete you. Consuming cannot complete you. The things of this world don't satisfy. You need to be looking outside of it. The discontent grows as your appetites grow. It doesn't just lead to consuming items, but to consuming people. Other people become objects of desire. You use them. You abuse them. And when they don't feel you like you want them to, you hate them. You think yourself the victim. This wouldn't happen if they loved you like they should, if they recognized you like you deserved, if they respected you as is right, if they paid you what they owe you. others become the object of your hatred, they couldn't fulfill you the way your all-consuming heart said they should. This is the gluttony of the soul. It is always consuming, but never full. It wants more and more. It gorges and devours, and in the end is just as hungry. People or pleasures, it all gets consumed, never enjoyed. This is a problem dealt with in C.S. Lewis's book, Till We Have Faces. A desire that appears to be love is shown to be nothing but a demonized version, a kind of endless consumption of others. This is the story of Orual, the Queen of Glome. Orual is writing a complaint against the gods, especially the god Ungit. Orual is angry because she believes that Ungit has taken everything from her by taking away her younger sister Psyche. She believes that she has loved Psyche, but when Psyche is taken to marry and live among the gods, she's not pleased at all. Despite it being better for Psyche, Orual can't stand the idea that her Psyche would belong to someone else. She reacts as if her own possession was being taken away, rather than as if her loved one was receiving some kind of good gift. Orual's love was actually a devouring or a consuming of others around her. Seeking to run from the endless gluttony of her soul, she hides in the pleasures of life. I did, and I did, and I did. And what does it matter what I did? I cared for all these things only as a man cares for a hunt or a game, which fills the mind and seems of some moment while it lasts. But then the beasts killed, or the kings mated, and now who cares? It was so with me almost every evening of my life. One little stairway led me from feast or council, all the bustle and skill and glory of queenship, to my own chamber, to be alone with myself, that is, with a nothingness. Going to bed and waking up in the morning, I woke most often too early, were bad times. So many hundreds of evenings and mornings. Sometimes I wondered who or what sends us this senseless repetition of days and nights and seasons and years. Is it not like hearing a stupid boy whistle the same tune over and over till you wonder how he can bear it himself? How often have you left a full day only to be met with that existential angst while you laid awake in your bed? How often have you been confronted with your own nothingness? The seeming goods of this world could not fill the void within Orual, could not solve this problem. Adding experience couldn't stop the spiritual wanderlust. This continues until she is forced to realize the truth. One night in a dream, a nightmare really, Orual is confronted by her dead father, the king. He brings her to dig down deep into the palace, where she finds a mirror and seemingly, for the first time, realizes the truth. She looks into the mirror, but the face she sees is the face of the one she hated the most. But my face was the face of Ungit, as I had seen it that day in her house. "Who is Ungit?" asked the king. "I am Ungit." My voice came wailing out of me, and I found that I was in the cool daylight and in my own chamber. So it had been what we call a dream. This vision, anyway, allowed no denial. Without question, it was true. It was I who was Ungit. That ruinous face was mine, I was the bata thing, that all-devouring womb-like yet barren thing. Gloam was a web, I the swollen spider, squat at its center, gorged with men's stolen lives. Orual is a narcissist. She doesn't care for others as other, but only as much as they become an extension of herself. They become something to gorge herself on, something to take from. She strip mines her relationships, leaving nothing when she's done. Fyodor Dostoyevsky referred to this kind of turning in on oneself, this narcissism, as the underground. Dostoyevsky was well acquainted with the narcissism that brings one to never be satisfied and only to abuse others, to suck dry their spirit. He did so to his first wife, Maria, until she died. Through his gambling addiction and self-obsession, he turned Maria's life into one of great cruelty, and then she was gone. It was after this experience that Dostoyevsky wrote Notes from the Underground. The underground man in this story is a man consumed by himself, full of resentment, living within his own head rather than the real world. He confesses in his writing where this self-obsession ultimately led him. He felt completely justified in judging others whom he assumed judged him. He relives his life as a student in school, remembering all the ways his fellow students must have been jealous of him and his intellect. He lashes out at those who in any way would break into his own self-conception. He thinks more highly of himself than anyone, and yet at the same time hates himself and finds his life contemptible. He is a contradiction, but he is you. The story comes to a climax as the underground man might finally be pulled out from the cave, so to speak. He meets a woman that he looks down on, a prostitute. He has the chance to be free of himself through another. He has the opportunity to love another, who is in fact other. She comes to him for help, and he opens up in a way that he has not done for anyone else. She sees the squalor that he lives in, and she still holds out her hands to him, willing to embrace him. But he never lets go of himself. In the end, he humiliates her just so he can maintain some sense of pride. It is gross to dive into the mind of a narcissist, something which Dostoyevsky can help you do if you dare. The grossest part is that when you take the time to look truly into this mind, you might find a mirror. Digging deep down, you will find what Orual found. It is as if you're walking through a hallway and you catch a quick glimpse of yourself in a mirror. You're scared to go back and look again. The face you saw, it isn't the face you have in your mind. It's like hearing your own voice for the first time and being shocked at what it actually sounds like. Truth will begin to break in, and you might recognize the unattractive reality. You are Ungit. You are the underground man. You are a narcissist. I know that you will perhaps be angry with me because of this. You'll stamp your feet and say, you're speaking of yourself alone and your underground misery, so don't you dare say all of us. But excuse me, gentlemen, I'm not trying to justify myself by this all of usness. Strictly speaking, as far as I'm concerned, I've merely carried to extremes in my life things that you've never had the courage even to take halfway. And what's more, you've interpreted your cowardice as common sense and found comfort in deceiving yourselves. Virtual reality is what you are using to keep yourself distracted rather than face up to the truth. You spend all of your time building up a false perception of who you are. You defend this perception aggressively, knowing that if you do not maintain it, there's a sense in which you are going to have to die. You have to cut off anyone that might expose that you're not what you want to be. So you hide. You hide in books, in Netflix, in music. You hide in other people's vlogs. You enter into other worlds because the real one is increasingly unsafe for the false you. This has created a kind of disassociation. You feel uncomfortable in your own body, which is increasingly less like the ideal you have for yourself. You feel less connected with others, with nature. Silence becomes a problem. It's 3 a.m. and you're still doom scrolling. We have even become so unaccustomed to living that we sometimes feel a kind of loathing for real life. And that's why we cannot bear to be reminded of it. You see, we have reached the point where we look upon real life almost as a burden, almost as servitude. And we are all agreed among ourselves that it's better to live according to books. This is the impulse that drives you to isolate yourself even more. There's part of you that's drawn to others. But the more you're with others, the more they might see under the mask. The longer you know someone, the greater the chance they will expose you. So whenever you begin to get close, you sabotage the possibility. It's not just you either. Everyone is doing the same thing, suppressing the truth in unrighteousness. This is the virtual reality that you live in. There are many ways we all hide. You can completely change your appearance. You can speak from an anonymous account and become whoever you want to be. Usually the hiding of oneself is done under the name of authenticity in order to become the real you. The real you must be done away with. We even find it a burden being human beings. Human beings with our own real flesh and blood. We're ashamed of it, considered a disgrace, and are forever striving to become some kind of imaginary, generalized human beings. We are stillborn, and we have long ceased to be begotten of living fathers, and this we find increasingly pleasing. We are acquiring a taste for it. Soon, we'll devise a way of being somehow born from an idea. Yet despite the various promises of transcendence and the lies you tell yourself to ease your conscience, you are still just you, alone in your room, contemplating how to end it all. There have been many promises of happiness, but no one has delivered. But the dissatisfaction with what you've been told to call life is one of the sane parts of you that's left. It's enough to begin the journey you must now take. Look in the mirror. Who do you see? Don't try to cover it up. Don't keep hiding. This may well be the hardest thing that you will ever do. I'm asking that you take an honest look at yourself, even though the world around you and your own desires are offering you every opportunity to look away. I want you to actually see your soul. Nothing satisfies, does it? It might feel like there is something broken, Everyone else looks happy in their consumption. What's wrong with me? They all feel the same way. They just cover it up too. The more you take out of life, the more you want. The more you have, the less you feel like you have. Isn't that what it's like? You may look out and think that people putting demands on you are selfish, that they're using you. You might look at God and hate him for what he requires, that he won't just give you what you want. But if you look in the mirror, truly look at yourself, you have to say, it's me. That constant devouring of soul that never fulfills the appetites, that is you. You are the one who's using others. Stop blaming those outside of yourself. Stop blaming God. You are the broken one. Come out from the underground. You are the one pulling others in, using them to get whatever you think is next. You are the one gorging yourself on the lives of others for your personal fulfillment. And it doesn't even work. All of the lives you have sacrificed, and all of the people you have used, and all of creation that you've abused, none of it has done what you thought it would. None of it has left you full. You still, in the quiet moments when you can't hide anymore, are all alone. There is still an existential dread, an aversion to the silent places. The leech has 2 daughters, give and give. 3 things are never satisfied, 4 never say enough. Sheol, the barren womb, the land never satisfied with water, and the fire that never says enough. This is the hardest part. Repentance. Death before death. But if you won't do it now, if you continue to put this off, it isn't going to get better. That destructive selfishness where your soul's gluttony drives every decision you make, in the end, it will consume you. But you are not simply a finite creature, something that just goes away. You are forever. You are an eternal soul. If you don't die before you die, then you will go on dying forever. You will be consumed by your lusts and envy and bitterness forever. This is the worm that does not die and the fire that never stops burning. For their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. I'm telling you, you need to break out of this virtual reality. A virtual reality that has been created by your own desire to hide who you really are. You're suppressing the truth. You're running from it, but you need to stop. It is quite literally swimming against the current to repent and turn away from it all. It requires that you be willing to give up everything in principle, the whole of the world, but it will be worth it. Reality is worth it. This is the first step, perhaps the hardest. But if you only go this far, it won't be enough. Looking in the mirror, you are still the focus. The point of honestly looking at yourself is to see that you have to look beyond yourself. It's to show that you are not enough, that you are an apparition. If your soul is endlessly consuming and devouring, but never filling and truly enjoying, then you need something greater than your desire. Something that overfills and overflows. You need something that fills faster than your desire grows. Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks of the water that I will give him will never be thirsty again.